Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going deep on something really important. Global mental health. The challenges, the healing, kind of the whole picture. We've got this 10-minute podcast episode that a listener shared called Navigating Psychological Challenges, Global Stories and Pathways to Healing. It's from this show called The World's Trending Pulse with Alex and Sam. Should be a fascinating deep dive.
Yeah, it really hits on how universal mental health struggles are. Something we all need to remember, I think.
For sure. And I thought it was interesting how the hosts, Alex and Sam, they talked about their own experiences with burnout and anxiety. Makes it feel so much more relatable.
Absolutely. And it kind of gets at that myth that being strong means, never showing weakness.
Right.
One of them, I think it was Sam, talked about how she always felt like she had to seem on, even when she was struggling with exhaustion and just feeling dread. And it's that pressure to keep up appearances that I think keeps a lot of people from getting help.
Yeah, it's like we're taught that admitting you're struggling is a weakness. But that's just not true. And that's why these conversations are so important, right? It's not about being strong enough to push through it. It's knowing when you need support.
Right, and asking for it. That's where that statistics from the World Health Organization really gets you. Over 280 million people worldwide have depression. It's not just a few people here and there. It's a global thing.
So we've got this idea that these challenges are everywhere. But then the episode gets even more interesting because it looks at how different cultures think about mental well-being. There's so much variety. They talk about those chat benches in Finland.
Oh, yeah. Those are amazing.
Have you heard about those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really simple idea, but so clever. It's like they have these benches where if you're open to chatting with someone, you can sit there.
Yeah.
Such a cool way to fight loneliness, which is like a huge risk factor for mental health issues.
Right. It's like a low-key invitation to connect. Hey, it's okay to want to talk. We all need it sometimes. And they talked about India, where, things like yoga and mindfulness are just part of daily life.
And what's interesting there is that it's not seen as treatment. Like you only do it if you have a problem. It's about preventing problems, finding that inner balance and making yourself more resilient. It's woven into their culture, not just a fix.
That's such an important distinction. It's like a totally different way of thinking about mental well-being. Okay, then there's this thing called sobremesa in Mexico. Can you explain that one? I hadn't heard of it before.
Yeah, so sobremesa is basically this tradition where after you eat, you stay at the table and talk, just enjoy each other's company.
So it's not really about the food, it's more about being together.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a built-in ritual for building community and feeling like you belong. Crazy how these little cultural things can have such a big impact on mental well-being.
For sure. It reminds me of all that research about how important social connection is, for our health and happiness. Like, sobremesa seems to create that exact thing, that feeling of belonging. And we know that's crucial for mental health.
Right. And it highlights how healing isn't just about individual therapy or medication. It's about the support you have around you, the things your culture values.
Totally. Then there was that story in the episode from a listener in South Africa. She talked about how art therapy really helped her. She said it let her express her pain in a way she couldn't with words. And then Sam, one of the podcast hosts, she finds comfort in journaling and relying on her friends.
I love that. It shows how there's no one right way to approach mental well-being. It's personal. It's about finding what clicks for you.
And remembering it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help.
Exactly. In fact, it's a sign of strength and being self-aware.
It's really cool how they talk about getting rid of the stigma around mental health, Like, they said that in a lot of cultures, if you admit you're struggling, people see it as weakness, even failure.
Yeah, it's such a problem. It keeps so many people from reaching out when they need help. But the podcast talked about how that pressure to look perfect is starting to change, especially with, celebrities like Lizzo and Michael Phelps. They've been open about their own mental health journeys.
Yeah, and having people like that be so vulnerable, publicly, it makes a huge difference. It's like they're breaking down that wall of stigma, showing it's okay to not be okay.
Totally. And you see it happening online, too, with movements like that, #HereForYou, creating these spaces where people can connect and share their stories, offer support.
It shows you that even online, we still need that human connection, that sense of belonging.
Absolutely. And speaking of connection, the podcast talked about how important those small acts of kindness are. Just having those open conversations. Imagine if saying, I'm not okay, was as normal as saying, I have a cold.
Oh, I love that analogy. It really captures what needs to change.
Right. We need to make talking about mental health normal. Checking in on each other, being more aware of how the people around us are feeling.
Okay, let's get into some of the practical stuff. The podcast gives some really good advice for managing your well-being. I was really interested in that 4-7-8 breathing thing. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, actually. And it's amazing how well it works. Like, you just breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. Sounds simple, but it can really calm you down, especially if you're feeling anxious. It's all about being mindful of your breath, like in meditation and yoga.
Yeah, I've done a little meditation, but I haven't really explored breath work that much. So cool how something so basic can be so powerful. What about that gratitude jar idea? They make it sound so easy.
And that's the beauty of it, right? It's simple, but it's a physical reminder to focus on the good things, even when you're going through a tough time. There's research on neuroplasticity, how our brains change. And it suggests that practicing gratitude can literally rewire our brains to handle stress better.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like we have more control over our mental well-being than we think. Okay, last thing they mentioned was moving your body. Now, this one I get because even just going for a quick walk can totally change my mood.
Yeah, movement is so good for you mentally. Releases endorphins, lowers stress hormones, helps you sleep better. And it doesn't have to be crazy exercise. Just stretching, dancing, even gardening can help.
The key is finding something you enjoy and making it part of your routine. Just those small, consistent efforts make a difference over time.
And that leads to one of the most important things they said in the podcast. Healing isn't linear.
Oh yeah, they really emphasize that. You're going to have good days and bad days, steps forward and steps back. It's easy to get discouraged when you have a setback, but you have to remember it's all part of the process.
It is. It's about focusing on the journey and being proud of every step you take, big or small.
Yeah, it's like they're saying it's okay to let go of that need to be perfect, when it
Yeah.
comes to healing.
Right. Takes the pressure off, lets you just focus on making progress, not being perfect.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive into global mental health, what really stood out to you from this episode?
I think it's how they highlighted the connection between individual stuff and cultural influences.
Right.
Like, healing isn't just about what you do on your own. It's about the people around you, the culture you're part of.
That's a great point. Makes you think about how we can build more supportive communities, like those chat benches we were talking about. Create more opportunities for connection.
Exactly. Building a culture where it's okay to be vulnerable, where asking for help is encouraged.
So for everyone listening, as we finish up, we wanted to leave you with something to think about. What's one small thing you can do today to take care of your mental health? Or help someone else with theirs? Maybe try that 4-7-8 breathing we talked about. Or tell someone you're grateful for them. Even just taking a few minutes to unplug and recharge.
Remember, little things can make a big difference. Those small acts of self-care and kindness can really create a ripple effect, help make the world a little more understanding and supportive.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into global mental health. We'll see you next time. Take care.